Welcome to the Connection Central Industry Podcast, where real conversations meet real strategies. Each episode we dive into the industries that keep Australia moving, talking with the leaders, innovators, and everyday operators, shaping what's next. So settle in, turn it up, and let's get into it.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Michelle O'Hara here from Connection Central. I've got a really interesting business industry podcast for you today because I'm very lucky to have Jacob Strudwick from Struddys with us. Welcome, Jacob.
Hey, Michelle. How are you?
So good to see you. And I'm so excited about this one because it's a bit different to what we're used to. So, Jacob, I'm going to hand over to you. Obviously, Struddys have been around for a long time. You've been in the business 16 years. But just tell us, first of all, a little bit about the story of how it all came about.
Yeah, cool. I'll try not to go for too long, but there's a bit to get through. But last year we celebrated 50 years. So we're in our 51st year now with Struddys. My old man started the family business back in 1975, which started as a retail store in Sunnybank. Dad was a professional rugby league player. He's from country New South Wales, from a place called Nyngan, which is out west, further past Dubbo. And anyway, he started his footy career even when he was younger. He moved into Sydney. He played for the St George Illawarra Dragons, or St George Dragons back then. And then in the early 70s, he got offered a contract in Queensland that he just couldn't refuse. It was a house, a car, and about $10,000. So he got in the car, drove straight up to Queensland, which was opposite to what everyone else was doing in the rugby league market back then. All the best players were coming to the Sydney comp. Anyway, Dad spent 2 years up there. He got to choose who he wanted to play for. And he played for Valleys, which was a working class footy club. They won 2 premierships. And Dad sort of thought, okay, I'll go back down to Sydney now and really test myself out again, you know. And anyway, the QRL said, oh, well, what can we do to keep you? And he said, well, open me a sports store. And they said, all right, no worries, we'll help you open a sports store. So that's how the first Struddys retail store started. And we started, you know, Dad just sold footy boots and everything like that. And back then, Dad was like the Darren Lockyer or maybe Cameron Munster of Brisbane, you know, so he was really well famous, and he'd go in there, and I think his brother and Dad sort of ran the store. And from there, the retail stores just grew a little bit. And then in the late 80s and early 90s, Dad went overseas to England to coach rugby league over there. And what he learned over there while he was coaching was he learned a lot about franchising. So when he came back to Australia, he said, hey, let's get Struddys franchises happening. So all through the 90s, and this is probably my first memories of Struddys as well, but all through the 90s, I think we owned 3 of our own retail stores, 3 or 4, and then we started franchising. So a lot of country Queensland and country New South Wales, so all the way down to Tamworth, Moree, Armidale, were stores that we had. And then we went as far, we had a store in Townsville. We might have had one in Mackay, and then a lot in the southeast Queensland corner. And so we, and my sort of first memories of being born into Struddys, I guess, was we used to go visit the country sports stores, like the franchises, which I love, because I used to just go in there, try on footy boots, like time after time, throw the footies around and everything like that. While Dad would do his business. But yeah, I was a truck dog. I was 6 or 7, going around country New South Wales and Queensland, going to see our stores and helping them out. And then in the 2000s, we slowly transitioned into manufacturing. So we used to provide a lot of local sports clubs. We used to buy a lot of their shorts and socks, for example, hold them in store, which meant players, when they registered for their footy club, they would have to come in and buy their shorts and socks from Struddys. But at the same time, they would get their footy boots, they'd get their shoulder pads and whatever else.
Smart.
So that was the start of it, of getting into the club and school games, because sometimes we'd even have school uniforms in our sports stores. So it was quite diverse, you know. And then I think, like, when you look at those first 30 years, we were evolving pretty quickly. Like, you know, we were just a retail store. We went into franchising. Now we're getting into the club and school scene. And then over time, we realized, hey, why don't we start making this stuff from China ourselves? And so late 2000s, we found a factory in China that was pretty reliable. And so we're doing more and more with clubs and wholesaling. So yeah, back then we found our partner in China, and we were importing from there. We also did some importing from Vietnam and India, which caused us some problems, but then we found a reliable factory in China. And at the same time, internet shopping was really becoming big, sort of like 2008, 2009. So Dad and his brother at times split the business. And Dad took the wholesaling side, which wasn't making as much money at the time, but Dad could see the growth. Whereas my dad's brother or my uncle, he went with the two stores that we had, retail stores that were producing a lot of sales at the time. So a bit of a risk, but a couple of years later, we sort of had our first big milestone, I think, and probably one of our most crucial parts in the last 50 years is we got the QRL, Queensland Rugby League license. So that meant that the footy clubs we were dealing with, we couldn't physically make their on-field gear because they had the QRL badge on the right chest, right? We could do all their off-field gear and make good money, but for their on-field jersey and shorts, we could only make 10 roughly because we had to purchase it through another supplier because they were a licensed supplier. So pretty crazy. But anyway, in 2011, we get the QRL license. So first of all, we were going to make more money on jerseys and shorts. We were dominating the business for off-field. So we knew we were going to get into more and more clubs. And then thirdly, it was a really quite a prestigious license in probably the whole of Australia that gave you a lot of credibility. And off the back of that, we continued to go harder for licensing rather than just being another supplier, And so I think 2014, 2015, we got a New South Wales Country Rugby League license, which just opened all of New South Wales up for us, which suited us. That amalgamated into the New South Wales Rugby League license a few years later. So now Sydney was unlocked for us. Within that, there was a lot of our school contracts and licensing. We got approved for a lot of that sort of stuff. And so just, we were starting to submit tenders. Everyone was more familiar with us along the way. We were a reliable supplier and we had all these licenses to back it up. And I think what helped with that along the way was probably 2012 or 2013. A lot of other suppliers were now moving all their manufacturing to China or offshore. Dad at the time said, no, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to bring our manufacturing here whilst we still have the relationship in China. So, our biggest advantage over our competitors where they were 8 weeks out of China. If someone needed something in 2 weeks, we were doing it for them. Right. So that was our biggest advantage over the big brands that had the name or the NRL team or the professional team was they couldn't make stuff in a couple of weeks like we could, What was more important for us is the under 6 player at grassroots level running out with their gear on compared to the professional or semi-professional team. We never put anyone above. It was about everyone getting their gear. So over the last 10, 12 years, our local production has increased. At the moment, we're probably producing 3,000 to 5,000 garments locally per week, and offshore we're producing 15,000 to 20,000 per week. So, we rely on our partner in China a lot. But they're the things that have really skyrocketed us, and in our growth over the last sort of, 10, 15, and 50 years even. So, yeah.
Wow. Fantastic. I mean, that would have been a big risk, obviously, for your dad to make that call. So, his belief in what he wanted, he sounds like he was very focused and, that's what we're doing. I love that.
For sure. I think he's probably one to go against the status quo a bit. And like you look back to, he's a country New South Wales boy, right? I don't think a kid back there, back then from Nyngan out wood chopping with his old man at 9 years old would dream of where he wouldn't have had the imagination to come up with where Struddys is now. But, you look at him, even his footy career, he was at St. George, one of the most prestigious rugby league clubs in Australia. That were on this awesome run. He was playing first grade and everyone from Queensland, the best players from Queensland were coming to New South Wales. He goes, no, I'm going to go the opposite way, and played for Australia a couple of years later through the Queensland comp. So he sort of did that with work as well.
Well, I love that. And now tell me from a bit more of a personal view, obviously you've been in the business for 16 years now.
Yeah.
How has that rubbed off on you? Or do you find being a family business, it's more of a, no, we don't agree. I want to go this way. He wants to go that way. Be honest.
Yeah. So definitely, I think Dad and then one of his business partners, Paul, who's worked for him for 45 to 50 years, and his son is also my best mate and he's general manager of our Queensland operation. So it is very tight-knit family business, but they instilled some really, really good habits and behaviors into us from young, hey, we have a good time, but we work hard, and we do whatever it takes to get the job done.
Mm.
And then, we have a good time afterwards. And then, sometimes, when we're at a footy carnival or something like that, you might be having a few drinks with clients and whatever else, but you got to make sure you're at the tent the next morning at 6 a.m. to get the job done again. And they're probably
Yes.
the main things I think that over the last 10, 15 years, Dad and Paul have instilled in us is, you get the job done, and then, you have a good time off the back of it. And I think that's been our success, is we've always just been so reliable, and, our hard work pays off. And you know what, we get the fruit sometimes, and you get to enjoy your time off and whatnot. So that sense, some really good things. And of course, in family business, it's, everyone says, "Oh, don't get involved with family in business." And for sure, there's times I think sometimes I think I'm in the TV show Succession, a little bit like that. Dad's pretty old school, and he's getting on a little bit, but it's crazy still when you pull back sometimes, and you go, okay, what was he trying to get out in that message? And then you're like, oh my God, and I might not go with it, or I might not agree with it, and then he's often right, and you're like, oh, bloody hell, damn it, like, okay, I get it. And so maybe his delivery's not great all the time, and a few F-bombs and whatever else, but it's all a part of it, and we just keep showing up.
But love it. So I was Googling and I saw that the Australian sports industry is $32 to $50 billion people spend annually in Australia. That's very exciting. What do you find, are there certain sports that you're noticing have got bigger growth that you're doing more work in? Is there sort of pockets? What do you tell us a bit about, the industries and things that you're working? Because I'm sure everyone will be fascinated.
Yeah, well, I mean, with Dad's background in rugby league, that's where his name was established, right? So, and we've for years, 10 years ago, we were really pigeonholed as a rugby league supplier. So we would often go to a rugby union club, and they would say, "Oh no, you guys are a rugby league supplier. We're not going to deal with you." And like, you'd be like, "Oh my God, like the jersey's the same, the shorts, slightly different. We can still make the different shorts and whatever else, or." You would go to a netball club and they'd say, "Oh, you're a rugby league supplier. You guys don't know how to make a netball dress."
Good point.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we did evolve over time was our logo. So our logo used to be an S, but it was in the shape of a football. So we changed that about 3 to 5 years ago, and then we put a big emphasis on growing just out. Like, let's get out of the pigeonhole of just being a rugby league brand. We're well established in schools. We're dominating the rugby league market, but we said, hey, we got to diversify a bit, so they're not just focused on the seasonality of rugby league, really. And so in the last few years, we've really grown into netball. So we're sort of dominating that market. Touch footy, probably for the last 5 or 6 years, which tied in closely with rugby league, but still it's a market in itself. And, I think, another couple of sports which has really strong licensing around it that we're looking to sort of grow into is AFL 100%. And then the Bowls Australia's got a really strong licensing program. And hey, the old fellas and Sheilas, they all need a uniform to bowl in each weekend. So definitely a market we're looking to grow into. And then off the back of that, you've also got a lot of your sports that are unlicensed and social sports that we generate a lot of sales in. So, I play touch on a Monday night. We get new kits every year, but, on our online ordering platform for those sort of things is pretty user friendly, and being able to make in Australia for people that, hey, by week 3, we have to have our uniforms, otherwise we start forfeiting. We can make it in a couple of weeks. It costs a little extra, but we get a lot of people out of trouble like that for those little, 10 singlets and stuff like that for different sports. So I think, look, in Australia, rugby league on the eastern seaboard's massive. AFL's huge down in Melbourne and really growing in Queensland, New South Wales, and obviously South Australia and WA. So, those two codes are at the forefront of, especially men, and they're growing in women. And then you got your netball, which is dominating as well. So those sports are sort of where our focus area, I would say, is.
Cool. You mentioned the netball, and, I keep arguing because when I had the marketing company, there were 9 of us women and we were all big Broncos fans. And of course, every time a Broncos newsletter comes out, it's only got all the male outfits. And I get so angry because it's a huge market, because over 50% of their fans are women. So are you noticing, like, obviously now you've got the women's footy and such like that. Did that open up a whole new market for you? And therefore you went, yes, thank you very much. Here we go.
Yeah, more so
Not
just,
really.
It was more just like exciting, like that. It was, for me, it was more like, oh, finally, like the girls are being recognized, a little bit. Not so much, oh, yes, we're going to make more money or anything like that. But, it's like our national sales manager is a female and was a female NRL player. And, I knew her from years ago, and she was one of the post-up girl, like, she was one of the top girls when she first came in, and she had blonde hair and she was good looking, right? So it was an easy sell for them. But, she still tells me of their state of origin getting down to the ground, and the locker rooms weren't unlocked because the ground manager forgot to get there on time. So, they just like quickly got changed in their cars and then would warm up and have a state of origin game, right? This is 20 years ago,
Wow.
But that's what
Wow.
they did to play, and I still remember at the Schoolgirls Carnival, the first year of the Queensland Schoolgirls Carnival, the president of Queensland Secondary Schools Rugby League came over to us and said, oh, hey, Ross, we're going to start the invitational for the girls, and at the time we were sponsoring X amount of dollars to the boys. And even for the invitational carnival, he just said, I'll match the sponsorship for the girls. And it was going to be half the amount of kids. There was going to be no Queensland team picked or anything like that. But our commitment there has just rolled
I love
on
that.
into the whole
Yes.
girls side of the rugby league, especially. Just off the back of that gesture from years ago, like just our commitment to it. So, yeah, I just think it's, it's about time, and the girls are doing some pretty incredible stuff on the
I know.
field. And, you hear the stories, they hear the stories of them having a baby, and then, 6 weeks later, they're back training, and some of them are playing and stuff, in the netball. I think one of the girls recently, I think she was like 52 days postpartum
Yes.
and back playing professional netball. Crazy.
Is that in the Firebirds, I think? Yeah, amazing. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're mad. Look, I get the impression, and even talking to you offline, I mean, your level of customer service is profound. Congratulations. You were talking about, and I love this, so I have to bring it up, but, quite often companies, they get to a certain level and, they're like, oh, I only want to deal with the big guys, and I only want, and I loved the fact that you talk about, the small orders could lead to so much more. Can you just share a bit,
Yeah.
about your
Yeah.
thoughts on that? Because I just love that
Yeah,
thinking.
for sure. And especially our growth over the last, 5 years, especially more doors have been opening at the top level. But we built our whole thing on delivering for grassroots sports clubs and schools, right? And as I said before, our delivering for the under 6 player on the weekend and making sure that kid runs out in their gear, their jersey, what gives them pride, making them feel part of the team. That's more important than to us than the pro team or the semi-professional team running out with their gear, and we don't ever prioritize either of those orders. We built our local manufacturing to be able to meet the needs for both of those types of customers. I think what we've done really well is we've made a really strong foundation at the grassroots level, and we've just built up. And, we've got some really exciting opportunities happening at the moment to break into the pro level. But every time that we talk about it at exec meetings and stuff is about, okay, how do we make sure we're not going to turn into that other supplier? How do we make sure we're going to deliver the under 6 jerseys in that 1 week turnaround that they require it, and so we always put more focus on that than making sure we secure the new big tender. So, but that's just all a part of the growth at the moment. And I think years of building our infrastructure, I look at it and I'm like, no, like it's all right here. We can do this, and we never bite off more than we can chew. And like some of the stories of our deliveries over the years, it'll be a Friday afternoon and someone will be playing out at Toowoomba Saturday morning, and the gear will be coming off the press at 5 in the arvo. We'll drive out to there. Some of the best stories are 8 hours overnight drives to deliver to make sure that team has the gear, and we still do that. Like it's only, some things don't all go to plan, and we still make sure we drive and deliver, because there's nothing worse than our name being associated with something not delivered. So.
What wonderful. It sounds like an amazing culture and wonderful focus internally. So you've got over 150 staff, which, oh my goodness, in today's economy is frightening. Go obviously with business and expense and budgets and all the things that are happening. How do you go with efficiencies, and like what are you guys doing strategically with AI and just in general to compete? Really?
That's probably, to be honest, that's probably been one of our weak points over the years. Is a lot of our problems with growth over the years, we've thrown people at solving the problem, which has then made the wage bill go a little higher and whatnot. And has been tricky, but just in the last couple of years, we've invested a lot more time and money into our technology to help streamline a lot of our processes. So, it's forever going and forever fixing and improving. But, we do have a really strong IT team. And with that, our tracker is one of our things that I can tell you where you could say to me, hey, where's this order up to? And I can tell you exactly where it is, and almost exactly when you're going to get it, almost to an hour, right? Which blows away people. But now we're just establishing that now to talk to our account system to make some of those manual jobs that we're doing a lot more automated. So, and we're having teething issues of having the personal touch compared to the automation, which, is one less email for a salesperson that the customer might not be feeling the love, as much. So going through that at the moment. But and then AI off the back of that, I haven't been using it too much. I do trust the IT guys to produce what we need, but we've been building a platform for probably 6 to 9 months, and the other day they put it into AI, and within 3 days it produced what took them 9 months to put together, and was it was similar, and but anyway, we've just got to use that to our advantage now and help us speed up what we're doing. So yeah.
Don't joke. I just did a podcast with a lovely plumbing lady, and she created their whole app for their customer service on using Claude.ai.
Yeah.
So and it did all the coding, and it was phenomenal, and their customer service is unbelievable. So, it's obviously something to keep.
The IT team were a bit, they called our GM over and said, oh, you need to come look at this. And this was 10 minutes after showing, and he said, yeah, it all checks out. And they're like, do we still have a job? And it's like, hey, you guys are really smart enough now to, make this all speed up for us, So, we won't leave them out in the dark, that's for sure.
Well, so we're obviously manufacturing in Australia. What are some other challenges that you find that you've got to sort of keep overcoming?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not sure if you know about this, but I think it was 2022, we had one of our big oil drums of our main machines lit on fire and burnt down our whole manufacturing facility. Yeah, so this is only 3 or 4 years ago. So that was a massive challenge to overcome, and you wouldn't believe it. It was the day that Chinese New Year it was Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year was starting. So this is early February, usually each year is when we become the difference, for a lot of our customers because we have local production.
They don't exist. Yeah.
And 7 a.m, you get the call and the place is up in flames. Yeah. So, and we just showed up the next day and we started solving the problem. We had machines up and running probably within a couple of weeks, and, all our staff were working and whatever else. And, we got through it. Yeah. I mean, a lot of hard work for a lot of the team, but we bounced back quickly. So speaking when you have that problem, a lot of the other problems that we run into are very little, but, for sure, like our main printer a few weeks ago, I went down and it produces, I think 100 jerseys per hour, right? So it went down, and then our 3 backup ones only do 20 per hour. So the team's like, oh, we have to use these, and it's like so painfully slow, Only 10 years ago, it was 5 jerseys per hour. So these little things, they happen, but we just react quickly, and we got some really strong staff. So only a few weeks ago, we just did split shifts, and we were going 24 hours per day. But 3 lots of people split over 8 hours per day so that we could just catch up manufacturing. And so those things sort of happen. But, the quality and everything that we're doing now compared to 10 years ago, like I look back at 10 years and I go, geez, how do we let some of that stuff go out? But people were still appreciative of it, being delivered within a week and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for such a big company, you sound extremely adaptive. You're definitely not Titanics, which I think is what keeps you number one out there in the market, right?
For sure. And like what Stud's done all those years ago, like he just continued to evolve, with what the market needed. And, one of the things in our product development, for example, we used to release a new range every year. And now that we've grown a little bit bigger and the time and effort that goes into it, but we do release a new range every 3 years. And so you probably spend 12 months developing the range and working on new fabrics to stay ahead of the game and all that sort of stuff. So that's a massive part of our business that's grown. And, people know they're getting the updated trends and everything like that with us. Whereas, I look at some of our competitors and, they're rolling out the same jersey and stuff like that they had 10 years ago. But I also see us go past them and pick up more sales and stuff, and I put it down to a lot of the research and development that we do.
Mm. Do you find, obviously, as Australians, we're all getting bigger, eating too much fast food? Is that a piece that obviously comes into it, like sizing?
Not too much, to be honest. Like our
Really?
stand, for a footy club or a school and stuff, we still use probably from 20 years ago the same standard sizes and numbers.
Really?
If you said to me, "Oh, hey, I've got a grade 9 and 10 touch footy team," we'd probably use the same sizes and numbers as we did 10 or so years ago. So
Is
yeah,
that
or
right?
15
That's
years ago. So yeah,
interesting.
so I wouldn't say too much, but yeah, hey,
Not much change.
we've made some big gear before. A couple of the smaller girls have got into a 9XL polo before, or 3 of the girls, and they'd fit into it and whatnot. But I wouldn't say it's been a massive trend
Yeah.
or a noticeable one.
Very interesting. It's such fascinating. I mean, there's so many interesting and intricacies about everything that you do, that I just find fascinating.
Yeah.
So what does the future look like for Struddys? What is the big vision?
Yeah. So we're on the doorstep of a couple of pro teams, to be honest, which, has always been something we've flirted with, but, we just think it's a natural progression for us, and we've got some really good opportunities. And, over the years, we've got so many big suppliers, and I won't name some of the suppliers, but, in the last, let's just say, let's put it as the last 10 years, so we can narrow it down, that, we've made on-field gear for teams playing in State of Origin, and off-field gear for those types of teams, and enough people hear about us getting people out of trouble and whatever else. And, a lot of these bigger organizations, they turn and take notice, and they hear the good stories of the service and the partnership we create with a lot of our customers. And so I think naturally those things are coming towards us, and we're there ready for them. And I think also where people take notice is they look at some of our biggest customers, and they're not our big customers aren't people that hang around for a 2 or 3 year contract. They've now been with us for 10, 20 years. So I think that speaks volumes of what you get with Struddys. Like, just to name a few, like Deadly Choices, manufacture a high amount of health check shirts, with NRL logos and everything on them. And for 5 or 6 years, they went through 5 or 6 different suppliers, and, they were hesitant to come with us. And anyway, we showed them what we can do. And our latest deal is going to take us into a 12-year partnership with them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Queensland Secondary Schools Rugby League is where a lot of it sort of started. They've dealt with us for 20, 25 years now. Queensland Independent Secondary Schools Rugby League, New South Wales Schools Rugby League has dealt with us for 12 years now, and it all started with getting them out of trouble with a lot of shorts. So all these big customers, it's not a 2 or 3 year thing. They become your mates, and it's a 10-year partnership with them. So yeah.
I love, Jacob, that, you're talking about such basic, simple things of exceptional customer service, and consistency and reliability and just care factor, to be honest. And it's really nice to know that, that it is still the crux of being really successful. And sometimes I think, in business, people potentially are trying to do something magical and, something up here, when they forget to get those basics right. And that's really what, creates those foundations and keeps those foundations.
For sure. And I even look at AI now, and I'm like, I'm going to beat an AI bot any day of the week by just going to see someone face to face. You know what I mean? That's one thing. You're not going to be able to replace that, right? You're not going to be able to replace that. Hey, you might be able to make my emails a little less and a little bit quicker, and, this and that a little bit better. But you can't replace me getting in the car and dropping something off for a team that needs gear, And
I love
over
that.
the years, that's how we built a lot of the business as well. Is, our reps they go out on the road. They go to places like Rockhampton or Longreach, and they go meet these clubs face to face. And one thing I've realized over time is that, you go see these people, especially in country towns, and, they don't see a lot of reps and stuff. And honestly, it almost becomes rude for them not to deal with you when you do catch up with them a few times a year. Like, they're almost forced to deal with you, And then if you back it up, which we do a lot of the time with delivery and whatnot, it makes the relationship pretty easy.
So good. So good. Look, see, we've come to the end. See how quickly it went? So did you play sport? Did you do
Yeah,
rugby
yeah.
league?
I probably peaked in high school. All my mates will laugh about that. But I was a big rugby league union, and then loved my cricket as well. And then after school, kept playing a bit of union, and nothing professional or anything like that. Just park footy with mates, and yeah, had a really good time. But yeah, work just took up a bit more time over the years. So yeah, just kept focusing on that.
Yeah, nice. So if you had to leave the audience, I guess, with something you've learned in business, what would be the number one thing that you would suggest is something to do going forward?
Yeah, I think I listen to you listen to a podcast. I listen to a few podcasts here and there about different businesses and what was their success. And you're like, oh, can't wait to hear what's the silver bullet, like what did they do? What did they find to do? And you just honestly, and I also look at politicians. I look at some of our prime ministers, and like someone like Albo right now. It's like he had no idea that he was going to be the prime minister of the country, but my key thing is you just keep showing up. You keep showing up and you keep trying and you get up and you have a good crack at it. And like you listen to some of these podcasts of these people, there is no silver bullet. It's not like, oh, I found this gadget or I found this way of doing things. No, they just got up, they worked hard and often long hours that no one sees, and goes from there. And I was in a course recently, and there was a saying that stuck with me that was a good judge of someone's character is, what do they do when no one's watching? And
Absolutely.
yeah, so
Absolutely.
and I think I put that down to showing up every day. And hey, what are you doing when no one's watching? Are you working on your business and everything like that, or are you doing other things? I reckon the people who are working on their business when no one's watching, they're the ones that tend to be successful.
Fantastic. This has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And I'm sure that if anyone is needing your services now, they know exactly who to come to, and
For sure.
it will all be coming your way.
Yeah, no,
Thanks so
thanks for
much
the
for coming on
opportunity.
with us, David. Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks
Thanks,
so much,
Michelle.
Jacob. See you for now.